and turn to Revelation chapter 3. Revelation chapter 3. One of the things that is nice about the book of Revelation that we've been studying through verse by verse is that Revelation comes with its own outline, found in chapter 1, verse 19. Oh my goodness, I don't even have to lead you to it. You guys are ready for it. Sorry, give me some time here to open this thing up. John is told to write three things, specifically this outline that he is given by the Lord. He's told to write the things he has seen, the things which are, and the things which take place after this, and the important word to remember there, and we will point this out as we continue along, is the word metatauta. Metatauta is the Greek word for after this, and when we get to chapter 4, the very first words that we read are after this. I'm going to need my phone or something because this is not opening up. Why does it want to install updates? This last week, it was this service too, wasn't it? It doesn't like you guys. I do, but my computer does not. If you get my phone or my other computer, love, that would be great. I bet you I can figure out a way to do this. I just wanted to see if she was willing to go get that for me. I think I'm good to go, babe, now that you're already to the door. It's just going to look a little different for me. It looks the same for you, but okay. So he's told to write these three things. What you have seen, the things which are, and things take place after this. What he has seen is the things in chapter 1. It's this revelation of Jesus Christ. And it's what John needed as a prisoner, as someone that was alone and imprisoned on the Isle of Patmos. He needed to recognize and remember who Jesus was. And he understood that that's also something that the churches need to remember. And so what he had seen was Jesus resurrected in glory, and the things which are is chapters 2 and 3. It's the churches, these 7 churches that Jesus gives these messages for. They're historical, they're real churches. And then the third thing is the things that take place after this, metatauta, chapters 4 through 22, the rapture, the tribulation. It's all these things that are going to take place after the church age. We find ourselves in the second section, the things which are. And we've been slowing down. We've been looking at each of these churches individually. We found that it's an incredibly important section for us. And again, this is for those of you who are new. It's review for those who have been with us. We've been talking about this quite a bit. But these 7 letters to the 7 churches are important because they can be applied 4 different ways. One, they can be applied practically. As I said, these are real churches, and they had real issues, and the instruction that Jesus gave, the revelation that Jesus gave to these churches spoke to the real situation that they found themselves in. There's a practical way to apply these letters. But also, it can be applied prophetically. There's things within the church age that we look at these 7 churches collectively that are a picture of the entire church age. That if you laid them out chronologically, man, there's a sense in which these churches map this out. Third, we've mentioned that they can be applied perpetually. Almost every problem and difficulty and situation and challenge facing these 7 churches are still addressed and come up in churches today. Churches are still broken with broken people, still with issues. And these 7 remedies that Jesus has for these churches are things that churches should apply to themselves today. There's a really great one here today. We're going to be talking about, holding on and keeping the word. Man, so many churches need to be reminded of the importance of keeping the word. There's things perpetually to be reminded of for these churches. And then for us personally, it's not just churches in general or prophetically or practically back then, but personally for us. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. The Lord wants to speak to you and I specifically. He could have chosen any number of churches. There were lots of churches when John wrote this, but Jesus chose these 7 churches specifically because they had lessons that he believed, Jesus believed, were important for us to apply to our lives. Now, as we've also mentioned, again, by way of review, Jesus uses the same fourfold structure for each of these letters. First, he gives a positive affirmation, much like a job review. Here's something you're doing very well. I see this. You're doing great in this area. It's a positive thing in the life of your church. And then he also gives, with that, I see that, but there's also a corrective exhortation. Here's an area that needs improvement, something that needs maybe some redirection, something that you need to be reminded of that you had forgotten. And then he also gives an eternal motivation that's connected to those two. Here's what you're doing well. Here's what needs attention. And here's why you should address that. Here's why you should keep doing the good thing. Here's why you should address the thing that needs correcting, is because there's something held out for you. There's something that if you persevere, if you keep going, that the Lord's going to have for you. And then every church receives a partial revelation. As we have seen this dramatic, impactful revelation of Jesus from chapter 1, there's a portion of that, there's a part of that that's attributed to each church. There's part of that revelation of Jesus as a whole that each church needs a portion of that. So this morning, again, we find ourselves at the end of this, near the end of the second section, the churches, and Jesus is writing to the church in Philadelphia. It begins in chapter 3, verse 7. He says, to the angel, or the messenger, the pastor of the church in Philadelphia. Now, let's stop right there. Let's talk about Philadelphia. Has anybody ever been to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Okay, is anybody from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Okay. I got the chance to go there several years ago, and it's great for history buffs. It's fun to go on the East Coast to see a city like Philadelphia, to walk through Independence Hall, you know. It's just amazing to think about what took place there. To see the Liberty Bell, right? See Ben Franklin's statue over above the courthouse right there. Got to see a lot of cool sights. Now, when I went, one thing I really missed out on was I didn't go see Rocky's statue. And I wish I could go back and see that, because that's pretty important to see when you're in Philadelphia too, if I'm concerned. But then another thing that I did not see is brotherly love. That is not something that you actually see in Philadelphia. The name means brotherly love, but there is not much brotherly love in Philadelphia. In fact, sometimes the city is called the city of brotherly shove, because it just has this reputation. I know years ago I had read that Twitter has a way of tracking with all these algorithms and stuff, and it got classified as the rudest city in America. The Philadelphia Phillies it's rumored that they will throw batteries, of all things, like D-cell batteries at players they don't like, even if that player is on their own team. Like, that's harsh. That's rough. And I think kind of the epitome of just the roughness, the non-brotherly loveness of Philadelphia was years and years ago. The Eagles played a Christmas Day game. Halftime show had a Santa Claus in it, and like the whole crowd in unison all started making snowballs and pelted Santa Claus, of all things, right? So that's Philadelphia. Now, the original Philadelphia does have some brotherly love. There is some brotherly love. In fact, it was named Philadelphia by a man named King Ximenes II of Pergamus for his brother. They were very close. He didn't have any successors, and he actually bequeathed the city to his brother. Geographically, like all of these cities, they're important cities. And Philadelphia was in a very strategic location. It's in what is called the Hermus River Valley. I think we maybe have a map of where it is in conjunction with some of these other churches that we've been talking about. They go clockwise, if you remember. And so this is about 50 miles from the Aegean Sea. It's inland. It's 30 miles southeast of Sardis. But it's in this very important place because it's right where three ancient empires kind of came together. And so this city of Philadelphia, much like our city has St. Louis, which is called the gateway to the west, Philadelphia was called the gateway to the east. It was built as a missionary city, essentially. It was built as an intentional outpost of Greek civilization and influence. As you may know, if you've studied history, the Greeks tried to push their way of doing things, Hellenizing the entire world, right? And so Philadelphia was created and founded as a city to be an outpost in which to send that message and that influence east into Asia. It's also a city that was known for its beautiful buildings. It was called Little Athens, or the Athens away from Athens, because it was full of temples and all of their pillars and all of that. The pillars themselves in their temples, and we have an inscription of one that's like their pillars, they were set up and inscribed with names of important dignitaries, just like we might see, sponsored by or whatever. These are sponsors. This is who helped pay for. They got their name inscribed on these pillars. Now, the most famous of its ruins, and really the only thing that's left, is actually pillars. This is the main tourist attraction in the city of Philadelphia. Look at the size of those. It's actually from a church called the Church of St. John, and these pillars are standing there today. Now, there's no other ruins for me to show you. I scoured the web trying to find pictures of ruins because I'm really into this history stuff. I want to see what this looked like. But there is no other ruins for me to show you. There's no other buildings or even remnants of buildings to show you, because the ancient city of Philadelphia sat right on a fault line. And so everything else in the city has been destroyed by earthquake after earthquake after earthquake after earthquake. And in fact, the current city of Ellensburg is sitting on what was the city of Philadelphia, except for those two pillars of that church. So as we come to Revelation chapter 3, we find in Philadelphia, we find a great church. It's a church that we should pay attention to, that we should glean from. It's a role model church, an outstanding church. It's a church to learn from, because along with Smyrna, who was the persecuted church, along with Smyrna, this is the only other church out of these 7 that Jesus doesn't write one thing negative about. Everything about this church is positive. And he emphasizes the fact that they're dependable, they're faithful. The heading in your Bible might say the faithful church. This is a tried and true church. And because it is, it's only fitting that Jesus introduces himself the way that he does here. He says, "These things says he who is holy, he who is true." Like you city in Philadelphia, I'm holy. I'm set apart. That's what the word holy means. There's common, and then there's set apart from that. Everything else in the world has a category. It's part of this ecosystem. It's part of this. But Jesus, he says, I'm distinct. I'm completely other from that. I'm completely unique and holy. I'm altogether righteous and original. He also, along with saying that he's holy, he says, I'm true. It's what I am. It's not a phase I go through. I don't tell the truth from time to time. It's not a tendency of mine. You might catch me on a good day. This is who I am. I'm not false. I'm not fake. I'm real. I'm genuine every time, all the time. There's no facade. There's no fakeness like we have. Right? Well, this is the persona. Jesus doesn't say that it's not my persona to be true. I am real. I am genuine. What you see is what you get with me. I'm holy. I'm real. I'm genuine. And he says, I'm in control. He goes on and describes himself in verse 7 as he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. Keys speak of sovereignty and authority. To have keys mean that you're sovereign over something. You have authority over something. And this here, as your margin will say, is a quote. Jesus quotes Isaiah chapter 22, and he says, I have the key of David. And anytime we add David into this, we understand there's something messianic going on. This isn't literally David's key from 1,000 years before this. No, he has the authority. I'm the Messiah. I'm the one you've been looking for. I'm the Messiah. I am the Christ. I am the one that you've been looking for, and I have power and authority, especially and uniquely when it comes to admittance and exclusion, because I have the key. I'm the one in charge. I have the authority. And he not only has the key of David, he goes on and says he has the keys, plural, of Hades and of death. If you were with us back in chapter 1, this is the partial revelation from chapter 1. He's the one who has the key of Hades and death. So this is chapter 1, verse 18. That's what I have. Even death and the grave is subject to me. Now, when we read this, okay, Jesus has the keys. I understand there's authority and there's sovereignty. But what we need to remember is that Jesus doesn't have the keys and I'm going to lock you up, swinging them I'm going to lock you up. He has the keys to set people free. That's why he has the keys. He has the key over Hades and death. He has the keys to set you free from whatever hellish situation you find yourself in. If you're here this morning, you're struggling with depression, addiction, loneliness, selfishness, wherever that is, whatever you're dealing with, he has the keys to set you free from whatever it is you're struggling with. And we all have our struggles. The key is Jesus. Don't be looking anywhere else for it. He has the keys. He still holds the keys. And guys, this is the message. As I said last week, we got to sneak ahead. We know this letter is going to end with, he who has an ear, let him hear, what the Spirit says to the churches. This is what the Spirit is saying to the churches. Jesus has the keys. This is the message our world needs. He still has the keys. He still has authority and sovereignty over the issues of life that people deal with. And they still need this message. And he says, this is who is writing to you. The one authority, the one of sovereignty, the one that's in control. That's who I am. And this is what I know about you. I know, he says, your works. I know what you're involved in. I know who you are. I know all of that. I know your efforts. I know your works. And what I want to do is encourage you to keep working, to keep putting forth effort. He says, see, check it out. I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. Philadelphia is the church of the open door. Now, next week, we're going to look at the last of these 7 churches, the Church of Laodicea. And what we're going to find is that the Church of Laodicea has a closed door. Remember, Jesus stands at the door and knocks. The door is closed. But not this church. This is the church of the open door. It's open because Jesus has the keys. And just as keys mean sovereignty and authority, we still use this phrasing. What is an open door? An open door is an opportunity. Lord says there's opportunity for you. There's a door open for you. And once I have opened a door, I have that ability, and no one has the ability to close it. I open doors no one can open, and I close doors no one can open. He says, so there's opportunities for you to serve and to witness. I'm giving you an open door, and you can walk through it. He says, for you have a little strength. Now, this isn't my notes, but my son is right here. Speaking of little strength. And every time he says, I'm going to go work out, what do I tell you? Work on the chest, man. Look at you. Come on. You've got little strength in the chest and arms area. I'm turning red for you. I'm sorry. The legs are fine, but you've got a little strength when it comes to this area. It's just a dig, a little barb, just having fun, right? Well, now, that's not what Jesus is doing. He's not saying, oh, look at how puny your chest and arms are here, right? He's not upset they have a little strength. He's blessed that there's strength there at all. And I find this encouraging because I may make fun of him. This is how I feel more often than not. I don't feel like a superstar. I don't feel all that strong. I feel like I got a little strength, Lord. And he's like, good, I can use that. You've got a little strength. You may not be he tells the Church of Philadelphia, you may not be the biggest, you may not be flexing the hardest and be the most impressive, but you have a little strength. And that strength, that little strength is powerful. Because actually the word strength here is where we get our word dynamite. The Lord says, you may be little, but man, when you go through the doors that I opened for you, you can't, because you have a little strength. I opened the door. But when you go through that door, oh, there's explosiveness there. There's explosive things waiting for you when you walk through the door of opportunity that I have for you. And so, he goes on, I'm giving you this open door because you have kept my word and not denied my name. Just as I keep the keys, Jesus says, you've kept my word. No one's getting the keys from Jesus. You have kept my word and have not denied my name. And this is what's going to bring that explosive power to your life. This is what's going to bring and make this walking through an open door with little strength. That's what's going to be the turning point, is the fact that you've kept my word. You have that. And this is good. As I said, this is an application that needs to be heeded by churches and individuals today. He says, you keep my word. You're devoted to it. You want to know my ways. You want to know my heart. You want to hear from me. That's what I see in you. That's what's important and impressive to me. That's what I'm commending in you, is that you want to hear from me. And he says, you haven't denied my name. You recognize me for who I claim to be. I'm not just whatever the world is trying to say that I am. Just an interesting teacher, a great moral teacher, a model of how to live life successfully, or maybe an avenue to a happier life, get associated with Jesus. He says, you understand I am the I am, and no one comes to the Father but by me. And that, as Acts chapter 4 says, there is no other name given amongst men by which men must be saved. It's in my name, he says, and you have not denied my name. You haven't turned your back on my name like so many of those other churches. You know me, you value me. Psalm 18 says, the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous run into it. He says, the world may be going crazy. It may be falling down around you, but my name is a strong tower, and you are running into me. You are running into safety and security that I provide. And so I commend you. You're keeping my word. You're not denying me. Even though there's ample opportunity to do it. Persecution is present. He says, indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Apparently there's those in Philadelphia, and I today as well, who maybe think they're Jews ethnically, or say that they've replaced Jews, or any of that. And these guys, they're persecuting the church. And they're pressing up against this small, not much strength church. And Jesus says, well, those who call themselves Jews, indeed, he says, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Now, what he's not saying is that these guys are going to worship you guys. It's not they are going to worship the Christians, but we're all going to worship. We're all going to worship in the presence of each other. Just as Philippians 2:11 and 12 says, that the name of Jesus, this name that you have kept, that you have not denied, that the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, those in heaven, those in earth, and those under the earth, and every tongue should confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. He says, I understand you church with a little strength, that things might be hard now, but I'm telling you, this promise is that you're going to get vindicated for trusting in me. You're on the right side of history, is something that we say, right? You're going to be on the right side of history when you keep my word and you don't deny my name. And then Jesus goes on and he says, because you've kept my command to persevere, you're not giving up, you're not giving in, I will keep you from, or literally, I'll take you out of, is the Greek expression here. I will take you out of the hour of trial, or as your translation may say, of tribulation, which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. This is a lot bigger than Philadelphia itself. This hour of trial, this set amount of time, and that's what hour of trial means, is this specific amount of time. It comes upon the whole earth, not just Philly. This is the whole earth. This is a worldwide event for a specific amount of time. And it's going to produce great difficulties, great trials. There's only one event that fits this description, and that's the tribulation. Now, if you've read through Revelation before, this is the stuff that is metatauta, that is after this. This is chapters 6 through 19 that describe the tribulation, this 7-year period where God pours out his righteous wrath on a Christ-rejecting, sinful world, where hell is come and visiting earth almost, so to speak. Now, this is a great proof text for a pre-tribulation rapture, because Jesus doesn't say, I will take you through the hour of trial. He says, I will keep you from, or literally, I'll take you out of the trial. Are we going to be kept as Christians from challenging times? Because those who are not pre-trib rapture, and we'll talk more about this when we get to chapter 4, but those who do not hold this view, either mid-trib, pre-wrath, post-trib, they say, well, are you saying that you're never going to go through challenging times or difficulties or wars or famine or all these catastrophic things? No, it doesn't say we're going to be kept from that. But we will be kept from the wrath of God. That is without a question. But not those who dwell on the earth, those who make themselves at home on the earth. This is an expression used 10 times in the book of Revelation. Those who dwell on the earth. There's a time coming when they're going to be tried and tested, and they're going to find out. Those who haven't followed the Lord, they're going to find out if they're God of self or pleasure or success or money or globalism, whatever it may be. There is a time coming where they are going to find out, where all that's going to be tested, and they're going to realize that their gods can't deliver like the God of the Christians did. But that's not you, he says. That's not you. That's not us. Nowhere in Scripture does the Bible tell Christians to prepare for the tribulation. The emphasis is always throughout Scripture on God's deliverance. Those who keep his word, who don't deny his name, they will be kept, taken out from this moment of trial. And so tribulation may be coming on the whole world, but that's not you. I'm going to keep you, for behold, verse 11, I am coming quickly or suddenly in a moment. Again, verses are not in the original text. John didn't write a little 11 right here. And so this very well could be part of the thought of verse 10. I'll keep you, I'll take you from the hour of tribulation or trial which shall come upon the whole world to those who dwell on the earth. Behold, I'm coming quickly. The believers are going to be raptured, taken, caught up quickly at any time. This is what Paul told the Thessalonians in 1 Thessalonians 4, 15 for 18. And like I said, we're going to talk more about this when we get to chapter 4, but it's good to be familiar with. Check out this, 1 Thessalonians 4, 15 through 18. Paul says to this church, for this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep or dead. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore, and I want you to notice verse 18 here, comfort one another with these words. So important. Comfort one another. It's not comforting to think that as believers, we're going to go through the tribulation. It's not comforting to think we're going to go through 7 years of it. It's not comforting to think we're going to go through half of it or 3.5 years. We're the bride of Christ. He's not going to say, I'm going to beat up my bride for 3.5 years, and then I'm going to protect her from another 3.5 years if I could beat her up. No, that's not his heart. If you're a husband, you know. I protect the bride from getting beat up. I protect her from that. There's no peace and comfort in that. There's only peace and comfort found in being reminded that we are kept from the wrath of God. It's the comfort that Paul gave the church in Thessalonica. It's the comfort that Jesus himself gives the church in Philadelphia. It's the comfort that he has for us. No matter what's going on in the world, no matter what world war might be starting, no matter the food crisis that might happen, we will not have to face the wrath of God, and that is comforting. And so he says, I'm coming quickly. Therefore, hold fast to what you have. Hold on and don't deviate. You've been doing well, keeping my word, not denying my name. And hold fast that no one may take your crown. Don't let anybody steal the victory that you have in Jesus. Don't get distracted. Don't become, your eyes off of me. Stay focused. I'm coming quickly. And verse 12, he who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Kind of a crazy promise, we might think, okay? A pillar, stand-up guy, I don't know. But what he's saying is, I'm going to make you permanent. What was left? What's left of the ancient city of Philadelphia? Pillars. As I mentioned, Philadelphia has these fault lines that run right through it. Earthquakes were and are frequent. That's they're like the Southern California of Asia, right? They have earthquakes happen all the time. And in fact, just over a year ago, it's called the 2021 or 2020 Aegean Sea earthquake, super devastating right off the coast. But with these frequent earthquakes, it collapsed the buildings. And there was a super devastating earthquake in AD 17. Completely leveled the city, so bad that Rome released the citizens of Philadelphia from taxes. And if the government's releasing you from taxes, you know something is really, really crazy, right? And so Rome says, hey, you can take a break on the taxes, right? And so oftentimes when these earthquakes happen, the only thing that remained, and you see this in Athens and lots of major cities in the world, the thing that remains is the pillar, right? And so hearing from the Lord that they're promised to be pillars, where? In the temple of God. It meant the world around them may fall, it may crash, it may be ruins. Man, but you're going to be planted. You're going to be established. Where? In eternity with me. Now, Jesus adds this, and he shall go out no more. As some of you guys know, we have 2 bio kids and 2 adopted kids. Our 2 adopted kids are from Haiti. It was a super long process to bring them home. But when the earthquake happened in January of 2010, our kids were actually born where the epicenter was in Carrefour. And when the earthquake happened, the walls of the orphanage, some fell. They shook. They went down. No one died in the orphanage, but that's traumatic. That's scary when the walls are starting to fall where you live, right? And so what they did, the kids told us, is that when the earthquake happened, they had all the kids go outside, stay out here, okay? Earthquake's done, seems like things are fine. Okay, bring the kids back. Oh, there's an aftershock. Go out. They're out again. Come back in. There's another one. Back out. Finally, back and forth. Finally, they said, they just kept us out there. And they kept them out there for like a week or more. Kept them out. And here, Jesus says, you're going to go out no more. You don't have to go through that process. You don't have to go back and forth like that. You're going to be with me. You're going to be safe and secure and planted as strong as a pillar, never to have to go out again. And then notice what else Jesus says to them. I will write on him, the overcomer, the one who trusts in Jesus, the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write on him my new name. You remember when we were talking about the city of Philadelphia and these pillars, and the picture that there's inscriptions on them, right? That's what they had in their town, was pillars with inscriptions on. And now Jesus says, you're going to be a pillar, and I'm going to write my 3 things on you, 3 things on the overcomer. I'm going to write the name of God, the New Jerusalem, and my own new name. The name of God is identification. It's ownership. You write your name on things that you own. It identifies it with you, right? The basketball tournament's going on. We know which team someone on is because they have the name on their jersey. And our jersey is going to have the Lord's name on it. You belong to me. You're identified with me. I made you. I bought you. You're mine. There's ownership, identity. Second, he says, our residency. You're going to have the name of the new Jerusalem that comes from heaven. And just like a package that might come in the mail, right? It's got its final destination written right on it. Okay, when we've placed our faith in Jesus, our final destination is determined. And Jesus always delivers. Nothing gets lost along the way. He is going to deliver us the whole way. And third, he says, I'm going to write my own new name on you. This is intimacy. It's like a marriage certificate. When Charity and I got married, she took the name Scheffer. Now that's her. She has a new name. There is identity, residency, and intimacy. And then Jesus signs off this message like he does for the other 7 churches. He says, if you got an ear to hear, listen to what the Spirit says. And I think there's a lot of lessons for us in this, is that there's stability, there's intimacy, there's all of that. Well, we're awaiting our King of Kings, the one who holds the keys, right? There's no safer place to be in Jesus. But man, he also said that we're to see, I have set before you an open door that no one can shut. Jesus says, see, check it out. Don't lose sight of the open door I have for you. Whether you're in Philadelphia or whether you're in Ellensburg, don't miss it. He had to point it out. See? And some of us are missing open doors in our life. And the Lord's saying, I want you to see the open door I have for you. And you may have a little strength. You may not feel like you have much at all. That's okay. All that's needed, it's always faith that's needed to go through the open doors. And you can go through this. And so whatever door God has in your life, whether it's service or ministry or witnessing, man, if he's opened it, no one can shut that. I don't know what your door is, but maybe the Lord's telling you this morning to see, I have an open door before you. But maybe personally, you've never placed your faith in Jesus. Man, you got to see this open door. He is ready to wash you white as snow, to take away all your sin, all your shame, all the hang-ups, everything that gets you down and disqualifies you from being with the Father. He's ready to take all of that away, and he has through what he's done at Calvary. And that's what we celebrate at communion. If you want to take out your